This weekend will be anything but a holiday for thousands of New Mexicans as pandemic unemployment benefits come to an end on Saturday. Those hit hardest will be the self-employed, contract workers, and so-called gig employees. Now, despite encouraging budget news, New Mexico is still among the worst states when it comes to unemployment. The state has gained back just 44% of its pre-pandemic job losses, many of which are in those groups I just mentioned. Now, that loss is about $300 a week, Ed. What's your expectation here? Will people get off the sidelines, so to speak, and fill those vacancies quickly, or are we headed for a crash of some sort?
Well, it depends on how you look at this. And there are really two types of employees who are still receiving benefits. And this is just anecdotal information. I read stories about those individuals who are going to be put in a very difficult position once this benefit ends. They're going to struggle, as you mentioned, the self-employed are one of those categories. But again, anecdotally, we hear the stories out there about those individuals who don't want to go back to work or are hesitant, because they make more money with these benefits. So how that's going to divide up when these benefits end, I think maybe it'll force a few more people into some of these many job openings that exist out there. So I think we need to look a little closer at those who fall into these exceptional categories, those who are making every effort that they can to work, but their circumstances are making it difficult. And I tend to think that is the minority of individuals that are really affected by it. But of course, we would need more statistical data to find out exactly where these people stand. I'm sure if you talk to the workers out there who've been out since the economy has opened up, they're probably elated to have a little more help. I understand that they're being really pressured, working a lot of overtime, and they probably could use a little help too. And they'll continue to help the economy. There are businesses who are only open part-time because they don't have the workers. So
that's right.
Bringing more workers into this workforce with all the available jobs, I think, is really going to continue to benefit the economy.
Good point there. Rebecca, the narrative has been that if you remove benefits, more people will get jobs. But data from the Labor Department and other financial services and payroll companies that I've seen show that any increase in employment is small, and it doesn't counteract the lack of spending that happens after the federal boost goes away. Low-income people spend less, and they're only marginally more likely to get a job, if we think about it. That doesn't bode well for us when you add all those things together.
No, if you're looking at the, as we had discussed earlier, the new money, a lot of that new money is coming as a result of the expansion of the unemployment benefits. And so, it has been beneficial to New Mexico that we've been able to support our own and generate more tax revenue, that goes into the bottom line. As far as do we continue to expand it or what the right answer is, I'm with Ed. I have had to rely on unemployment before, as has my husband, and to feel anything other than the complete sympathy for people who are really genuinely looking for work is just wrong. But we know there are people out there who aren't even trying, and we know that there are jobs, good jobs, that can't be filled despite how many people are looking for work. And, it happened with us. We had 3 different candidates for a full-time job with room and board ask if they could accept the job in September when their unemployment insurance ran out. This was in June.
Wow.
So, we do know it's real. It's not, I think it's terrible to make a generalization that everyone is not looking, even though they say they're working. And it's just, this is a tough one.
Yeah, it is. Sophie, sorry, go ahead, Rebecca. Do you have another point there? Sorry about that. So I got to think there's naturally going to be some heartburn, among people who have had a rough go of it during COVID, but, have been able to make ends meet without unemployment. I've talked to a lot of the folks, Uber drivers, for example, just had this conversation just the other night. Is that likely or maybe reasonable dynamic, do you think?
I think it's I think it's a tough dynamic right now. And yes, there are people who are working and who are electing potentially to work jobs that would give them less than unemployment insurance might. One of the things that I think is really notable is it's a local conversation. It's also a nationwide conversation about the value of work and what we pay our employees. And I think it's worth noting, Legislative Finance Committee data here in New Mexico shows that statewide unemployment for jobs that offer more than $60,000 a year increased 13.6% since January of last year.
Wow.
But employment in jobs making less than 27,000 decreased. So people, those are not necessarily apples to apples, but I mean, I think when you think of the $27,000 a year job, and the difficulty that some businesses are having in filling those jobs, well, you know what? It costs money to work.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a parent,
Good point.
childcare costs money, transportation costs money, you may have uniform costs. All of those things, we were sort of getting away with not factoring, businesses were getting away with not factoring that into their employment offers, the amount of money that they were going to pay.
Mm-hmm.
We see locally and nationally wages rising because of this pressure.
Right.
To fill those lower paid jobs.
Is that happening here, Sophie, in your view, anecdotally or otherwise?
My understanding is that it is happening
Okay.
here. I mean, Presbyterian, I think, is a good example. The hospital has raised its minimum wage across the state to $15, and I want to say Santa Fe is 17 or 20. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but yeah, so we are seeing some of those pressures. Well, what we've talked about for a while now is, for an individual who is making minimum wage, let's say at Walmart, they're accessing social services, they're accessing SNAP benefits, other assistance programs, and so we are paying as an electorate, as I should say, as a country, as a state, we are paying for those low wage jobs, and so we're, it's coming out of our pockets anyway.
Right.
Employers are screaming about, this is too expensive for us. We're not making enough money.
Yeah.
But this may just be reality now.
Good
You
point
have
there.
to pay more.
Yeah. Ed, real quick, the lack of child care among the lower paid professions that Sophie was just mentioned. By the way, I should mention as well, Sophie, your point about the 27G or under, it's $22,000 a year if you make minimum wage full-time for an entire year. It's $22,000.
That's right.
All right, Ed, this has been an issue, getting people back into the workforce, this idea of childcare. Are these positions likely to get filled? Does that matter for servers, retail workers who might have to lean on family for childcare? See what I'm saying here? It's very complicated. If one piece of this is not working, the whole thing just sort of unravels if you're a single parent.
Absolutely, Gene. It is an issue for many. In my business, I practice family law, and I deal with a lot of families and family-related issues and childcare issues and things of that sort. So I can see from a perspective that for many out there, men and women, who are primary caretakers of their children, this is an issue. This is an issue if you're a single parent, if you're not a single parent, if you're co-parenting and you're both trying to work to raise children. Yep. Childcare is an issue if you both work the same schedule. Often you don't have, in New Mexico, we think everyone is surrounded by family, but you often don't have that with others. Sometimes, they have nothing to rely on but childcare. And if we're slow to moving back to really open up the doors of many of these childcare facilities, families, parents, single or otherwise, are going to have to make that decision. So it's a reality that I think requires, just a closer look as to what effect that is really having and what options might be available to overcome that.
Yeah, good points there. This is yet another issue we'll be tracking in the coming weeks as we start to see unemployment numbers coming in.